Let's talk about how to keep your listeners glued to your podcast, but not actually glued, like interested and engaged, but not like, sorry. You're listening to the VIC Podcasters podcast, your bite-sized slice of podcasting know-how. We're all about connecting Victorian podcasters, newbies, pros, and the I'm gonna crowd. We'll put your money where your mouth is and join our emailing list and Facebook and LinkedIn groups for exclusive updates, resources, and our community Q&A, because podcasting doesn't have to be a solo gig. VIC Podcasters is proudly produced on Wadawurrung land. I was trying to do a funny bit there, and I'm sorry for the glue sounds and the terrible sounds that came out of my mouth. Essentially, how do you keep people engaged? And this is a 2-part mini-series about audience and listener engagement. So what I want to touch with you today is a couple of things to just not necessarily just keep your listeners engaged, but help you get more, because of course, word spreads. And when people love your podcast, they will definitely bring their friends to listen too. So let's start off with your energy. As a podcast producer, as a podcast host, as someone who is helping behind the scenes, you need to be able to bring the love to your podcast without being able to essentially being bored of your own voice. You need to avoid any robot voices, please, and make sure that your topic energy matches your energy. Like, for example, true crime might have a reflective and somber tone, but you're still allowed to make jokes, compared to stand-up, which is all about bringing the energy up in a room and hopefully in the podcast that you're listening to. Your intro should help you, or your hook, I should say, should rather hype you up and get everyone ready to go for the rest of your podcast. You don't necessarily have to maintain that episode. You don't have to necessarily maintain that energy through the entire episode, but it helps within the first 30 seconds to get people on board, get people engaged, and then from there you can settle in, especially if you've got a longer podcast. Most people who are deciding to listen to your podcast or not, they decide if they like you fast and they get the vibes real quick. So do your best to hook people, get them on board, and let them listen to the rest of the podcast. When it comes to engaging your listeners or your watchers, if you're doing both a video and audio format for your podcast, is utilizing inside jokes. Like, it helps you build a podcasting language and helps bring people on board that can honestly, give people a little bit of a tingle or a little bit of a ha-ha-ha when they are able to get your inside jokes. And in the event that you've got new listeners, it's okay. You can explain yourself every now and again, but you can slowly ingratiate people into listening into the podcast, especially if they've enjoyed themselves, and can then bring that energy to communities, to posts, to social media, wherever you are online and in person. They can bring that energy outside the podcast with them. But when it comes to inside jokes, you can do something as simple as giving your microphone a name. So that's lore that you can bring into, and legend and history regarding your podcast. You can reuse silly catchphrases or callbacks to old episodes, and encourage your listener to maybe develop their own inside jokes. For example, only the original listeners will know this, or listeners back on episode 2 will only have heard about this. Your fans will love feeling part of an in-club. And for those who are new to listening to your podcast, gives them incentive to listen back through your backlog to be able to get these jokes and to feel like they're a part of the family. Just pausing your podcasting experience to let you know that I run a business called the Video Confidence Coach, which emboldens women and non-binary superstars with killer video marketing strategies, empowering them to show up, stand out, and smash their goals. If this sounds like you, reach out to me in the show notes below. And the last tactic for this episode that I will give you to engage your podcast listeners is to tell the truth, even if it's about cringy stuff. Being vulnerable equals connection. Sharing bloopers or flubs or awkward moments in your podcasts, when necessary, are useful to keep engagement and realize that they're listening to a human being. A fellow human being, I should say. Listeners trust you more when you are real. You don't have to be polished. You don't have to be all edited up for the stars. Now, of course, I want to stress, you don't have to overshare everything. Even if your podcast is about your personal life or things you experience in your life, maybe not something as far as, say, your toe fungus or the relationship between your brother, sister's cousin. Like, we don't need to go that far, unless that is the topic of your podcast, of course. But something as simple as, I forgot to press record, I lost 20 minutes, iconic. It can bring people along for the ride in the journey, even if they may not be podcasters themselves. So a truth about VIC Podcasters, for example, is that I find myself when I'm editing these episodes, I breathe a lot and I do my best to cut out that breathing like I did just now. And I'm just conscious of it now as I'm recording. And that is giving me something that is stumbling over my words a little bit and something that I can bring into the Facebook and LinkedIn groups and the email newsletter of VIC Podcasters, as well as being able to remind people that, again, we are human at the end of the day. Some homework for you as the listener. What I want you to do is to record a new intro that is more you, that is sounding more you. It can be a 10, 15-second intro. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't even have to be polished with music or anything. Just record something that you can feel proud of, that doesn't take you too long, that you can start incorporating into your podcasts, that you can use after a hook or a couple of hook sentences, and then bring people on board, tell them what's going on, maybe add in a few callback or inside jokes so that people can continue listening for your next episode. And reflect. What personal truth can you safely share that is related to your podcast topic? Speaking of going back into the archive, check out our past episode 18, Dealing with Feedback, Handling Criticism Like a Pro. And that's what I want you to do when it comes to keeping your listeners engaged. And next episode, we're going to be touching on more tactics on how to get your podcast and your listeners melding together. That's a wrap. Remember, we're here every week to share quick tips, updates, and the occasional bad joke. Feeling inspired? Good. Now hit record or go to the show notes of this episode for a backstage pass experience of the Victorian podcasting scene. VIC Podcasters would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians on the land on which we work, live, and play. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. We stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And remember, podcasting doesn't have to be a solo gig.